Hey everyone, and welcome to the channel. So today we get to take a look at the 2024 Ford Mustang. This is a GT Premium. Huge shout out to Mooresville Ford for providing this muscle car for me today. Definitely take a look at their website. That link is down in the description. This Mustang is finished off in race red. MSRP is just shy of $60,000. Now this GT Mustang is powered by the 5-liter V8 paired to the 6-speed manual transmission. This pumps out 480 horsepower, 415 pound-feet of torque. That power is sent to the rear wheels, propelling this 3,800 pound muscle car from 0 to 60 in 4.1 seconds. It has a top speed of 155 miles an hour. It also has a fuel capacity of 16 gallons. You'll expect to see around 14 miles per gallon in the city, 23 out on the highway. This has a wheelbase of 107 inches. Its overall length is 189.4. It has a width of 81.9, a height of 55, and its ground clearance measures in at 5.7 inches. As we move on to the exterior styling now for the all-new Ford Mustang, you'll notice that the exterior design is fairly similar to the previous generation with a few cosmetic tweaks here and there. So starting up front for this particular model, we have gloss black for the entire grille. It's even on the logo front and center. There's plenty of cutouts to provide cooling to that NA V8, as well as the cutouts in the lower section. Now the inlets on both sides don't actually have any cutouts, so it's interesting to see that this looks to be somewhat of a fake trim accent with that piece in the back there. But as you can tell, the LED DRLs are currently lit up, welcoming us. This has LEDs with those turn signals too, and then that triple beam horizontal design. And then for the hood up top, there's the gloss black trim, and it is functional. So that's really neat to see for that heat extraction vent. But I think up front has a really nice, sinister look to it, especially with the size of that grille. Everything fits very nicely. And then there's also the lower splitter for the front of this model. Now as we work our way to the side, this GT has a really nice set of 19-inch wheels, and it even has the Brembo brakes. Painted red to match this exterior, but the wheels have a really nice matte black finish to them. For the side mirrors, they're finished off in gloss black, and this even has the gloss black roof to match. All of the window trim is black too, and then from the side, it looks like a previous gen Mustang with a few differences, especially in the back here. Some of the lines are very identical. The lower side skirt on this sticks out a good bit as well, and then some really nice lines just above that too. But the overall shape and design is very similar. Now in back, this is where we get a little bit of a difference. So this section right here at the back of the trunk looks a little bit different. This has a very nice trunk mounted spoiler though, finished off in gloss black. It has the 3D dimensional design for those LED taillights. Again, a little bit of a different design to them, but works well with this rear end. Now this has a backup camera, and then in the lower section, there's the dual exhaust as well as the reverse light right in the middle. Now, a lot of the Ford Mustangs do come with remote start. However, for this manual transmission, that is not an option. So you can use the button on the key fob though, or the one up underneath, to open up the trunk now. And you'll notice there's actually a good bit of storage space in the back. Now underneath the floor, you might be able to fit a spare tire in there if you really needed to, but you have a little bit of space if you'd like to use that. And then you can also fold down the back seats. So if you need a little bit more space and practicality, especially for this vehicle, it is nice that you have the option to do that. Now as we work our way to the interior, the door panel has a really nice design to it. There's some leather on the armrest there. All of the window adjustments, side mirror controls, lock and unlock. We do have this pretty cool trim accent surrounding that, and a little bit of storage down below. Now this GT also has a very nice set of Recaro seats, finished off in leather with all of the stitching. They are manual adjusting seats. So there is a bar up front to slide them forwards and backwards, a height adjustment, and then recline and incline. Now you can also use that to move the seat forwards, so that way you can hop into these back seats. Check out the bolster support that these back seats have. Now you're not buying this for a full 4-seater. As you can tell with that seat all the way back, there's no legroom, but you have some pretty comfy seats. We're gonna test this out at 5'10" and take a look at my head here. If I clear the headliner, I'm almost sitting upright, Not the most comfortable, of course. If I had to ride around town, I could, but then we'd have to figure out legroom and have the people up front definitely move those forwards. But you have extra storage. Maybe you could fit your kids in the back if you're looking for a practical sports car with your kids, so you can bring them along. And then as we hop into the front seats now, we are greeted with a solid and perforated leather steering wheel, flat bottom design to it. On this left side, there's cruise control settings along with distance pacing. You have the different driving modes, lane keeping assist. Right side, there's volume. You have a few controls to go through for the digital gauge cluster as well as for your steering wheel, and Bluetooth and voice commands. But let's fire this up. So with my foot on the brake and the clutch, we can bring this to life. And coming back to the digital gauge cluster, left side, there's the tach, right side is miles per hour. And then if I use those arrows, now we can go through some trip and fuel information, look at TPMS. There are a lot of vitals that you can pull up on both of these screens here. And then scrolling to the left and the right is actually for the radio. So that will adjust on the upper section of the screen, and that way you can go through that information. Now, if I push on the steering wheel control, now we can go between the comfort, sport, and normal. So just depending on how you would like to drive. And then over on the left side with the mode controls, we can actually change the entire gauge cluster, because that will change with the driving mode as well. So we can go into sport mode. That will change again, where you have a different graphic. And then we have the gauge cluster setting, now in a little bit different of a view. And if we go back into track now, not only do we get that cool animation, but we have a different setup with the tach on the top, and then all that info over on the left side or the right side that you can still scroll through. So it's really neat to see that. We have drag strip too. The last one we have is slippery, and then custom is one that you can go into and configure. There's a calm screen too, so just if you want to pull up miles per hour. And then the last one is a tribute to some of the older Mustangs. We have the Fox body from 87 to 93. So it's going to give you more of that analog display. And from what I've been told, at nighttime, the backlit for this particular setting is going to be green, as a lot of Fords were back in that time frame. So you will have that old school looking design at nighttime, which I think a lot of people will like. Now on this left side, there's all the headlight adjustments, dimmer switch for the gauges, even a trunk release. And then as we work our way to the infotainment system, you'll notice on the upper left, I can push on home, which gets us to what we are viewing right now. There's the navigation along with radio and phone. And then on the right side, you can get into some settings. So you can go through your clock, some general information. You can view some info on the right side there, which is pretty neat to see. And if there's something that you'd like to look at, like let's go up to the phone here, you want to push on that button there, you can actually flip-flop them, and now you can bring that up in full screen. Now if we go back to home, we can go into features, where you can go into My Mustang. Now if we go into the track apps, there's the acceleration timer, brake performance, lap timer. Now underneath that, there's some auxiliary gauges, so you can go through all of this and pull up the information that you would like to see while you're doing some performance driving. There's also a custom mode, so based on your driver profile, you can set all of this up. And then we can also go back into apps. So you can get into your Apple CarPlay, Android Auto, go through a few other settings within that. And in the lower section, you have temperatures for driver and passenger, heated steering wheel. You can even get into all of your climate adjustments, so you can easily go through all of that, turn everything on and off. It's a pretty easy system to go through. You have your fan speed too. So all of that is fixed in the lower section, which is nice to see. And then underneath that, there are two air vents, and then we have the engine start stop along with power and volume. If I push on the pony logo there, that gets you into your Mustang settings there. There's traction control, hazards, even a favorites, and a defroster for up front. This also has wireless charging with some auxiliaries, a little bit of space just in front of that. And then with the 6-speed manual transmission, I will pull the release and then go to the left and up. That will pull up the backup camera, and then obviously we have the rest of the 6 gears to go through. Now for this e-brake, all you need to do is pull it up once, and then the e-brake is now on. Push it straight down, and that is how you can deactivate the parking brake. So really cool to see. I believe there are some functions to be able to use this as a drift brake that are located within that screen too. There's 2 cup holders on the one side, a little bit of storage in the middle with an auxiliary, and then you have plenty of space down in the glove box too. Now up top, there's actually a sunglass holder, so that makes it very convenient. And then there's also your dome lights too. As far as visibility goes, you have a pretty big pillar there, but you have a large window there, you have a large window, you have your side mirror too. So that way you can easily see over both shoulders, and then you can still see around that pillar over the left side. As we set off now behind the wheel for the all new Mustang, this is my first time being in the manual. Now, I haven't driven the previous generation in quite some time, so it's going to be hard for me to see any of the differences, but from what I've seen, this is a lot smoother transmission to use. Clutch pedal seems very lightweight as well. And there's a few nannies that are with this newer model as far as some of the rev matching goes. I don't believe that you can fully do it yourself. I do think that it does that in the background for you, which is something that's cool. A lot of people do like to do that themselves, including me, but it definitely makes it very smooth. I really like the feel of this shifter too. It feels super engaging, and you know when you are in that next gear. So first initial impressions for the manual, this is super fun to drive. I'm really glad that Ford is continuing to keep the manual in their sports cars, because it's a lot of fun in my opinion. If you want a lot more driver engagement, I think the manual is definitely the way to go. Now, I actually just got out of the automatic, and the paddle shifters are okay. They're fairly responsive, but I think 3 pedals is the way to go for this type of vehicle. But other than that, driving it, this is the second newer Mustang that I've been able to drive, and it's a really nice, comfortable sports car. This is an American muscle car. It has that NA V8, that exhaust note that you want to hear, and it's a good all-around everyday type of vehicle. This is something that you could take to the track, you could take on some back mountain roads. It's a pretty heavy vehicle at right around 3,800 pounds, significantly heavier than some other vehicles in this class, but it's something that you can still manage and drive on some back roads. We got the Brembos on this, so we have a lot of stopping power, but you can also get some other trim levels too, some of the higher up trim levels, just depending on what you feel like doing for the day. But if you want that V8, you have to go with the GT. And then of course you can get some different packages from there depending on what you would like to spend. MSRP for this premium is $59,000. So realistically, you're the low 60,000s for this type of vehicle. And I think it's justifiable, especially for this newer model and what you are getting. Now, it's not a night and day difference with the previous generation Ford Mustang, but I think it has a little bit nicer of an interior to justify that cost, especially with this newer screen here. It doesn't have an overkill of technology, but it gives it that nicer, refined feeling for this interior. And as far as these Recaro seats go, they are super comfortable. For my size, I'm kind of at both ends here, so they would definitely hold me well, taking it around some turns. But I like this. This is a comfortable muscle car to drive, something you could absolutely daily drive with the amount of space that's in it. And from second gear, here we go. Even taking that turn there, very smooth, feels very planted. I'm not going, you know, fast for today, but for the normal driving for today's review, it seems very planted and fun to drive. I love this manual. I'm a huge fan of manual sports cars, so that makes the excitement even that much more higher because I get to row through these gears. But this is what it's like to be behind the wheel of the $60,000 Ford Mustang. Now, you can go with some lower trim levels if you don't want to spend quite this much money, but I'm going to say on average, the new Mustang is going to cost right around $60K, especially for the Premium here, which gives you a few more goodies. You can also get an upgraded exhaust, which this one does not have. So you can have the different valves for quiet versus track and go through all of that. So you can get some other goodies that this particular model does not have. And if you go with the automatic, you can get the remote revs, which I showed in my automatic Ford Mustang review. But this is nice. It's very comfortable and quiet. Like I mentioned earlier, it would be a great grand touring vehicle, as this is the GT, a grand tour, something you can daily drive and just get the best of everything. If you're only looking for one vehicle, this can pretty much do it all. It's a little bit more practical, having the back seat space and the trunk. Yep, it just rev matched for me on that going into first gear. But it's pretty practical, so it's something that you could have as your only vehicle and make work. But that is going to wrap it up for the all-new Ford Mustang GT Premium. Once again, huge shout out to Mooresville Ford for providing this American muscle car for me today. Check out their website, that link is down below. If you enjoyed today's video, give it a huge thumbs up. Consider smashing that subscribe button so you don't miss out on our daily uploads. And I will see you all in the next video.